We are going to reflect on humility. We are going to see how humility opens doors. Humility opens doors. What is humility? Humility is different from fear. Humility is different from respect. Humility is very difficult to see. It is always happening inside our heart. You cannot see humility, but you can see respect. You can see fear. Therefore, humility is an inward ability that it lets you to have a reflection. It gives you out to reflect either the good thing or the bad. Therefore, our theme today is humility opens doors. Humility opens doors. We're going to be reading from the book of 1 Samuel. 1 Samuel, you can open your Bible. We're going to read from 1 Samuel chapter 1, verse 9 all through to 17. You can read from there. Verse 9, it says, after they had eaten and drank at Shiloh, Hannah rose and presented herself before the Lord. Now Eli the priest was seated on the seat beside the doorpost of the tabernacle of the Lord. She was deeply distressed and prayed to the Lord and wept bitterly. So she made this vow, O Lord of us, if only you will look on my misery, or only if you can look at only on my misery of your servant, and remember me, and not forget your servant, but will give you a servant male child, then I will set him before you as a Nazarite, until the day of his death. He shall drink neither wine nor intoxicant, and no razor blade shall touch his hair. As she continued praying to the Lord, Eli observed her mouth. Hannah was praying silently, only her lips moved, but her voice was not heard. Therefore, Eli thought she was drunk. So Eli said to her, how long will you make a drunken spectacles of yourself? Put away your wine. But Hannah answered, no, my Lord, I am a woman deeply troubled. I have drunk neither wine nor strong drink, but I have been pouring out my soul before the Lord. Do not regard your servant as a worthless woman, for I have been speaking out my great anxiety and vexation all this time. 17. Then Eli answered, go in peace. The God of Israel grant the petition you have made to him. Therefore, dear brothers and sisters in the Lord, what are some of the key things that we learn from this text? We see Eli was a priest. When she saw Hannah was there, only the lips was moving, but the voice could not be heard. He thought she was drunk. Why? Because during that was a celebration that all the Israelites from all over the places always come at Shiloh to celebrate. During that time, everybody comes, and every year, Elkanah, her husband, always bring her with her counterpart Peninnah. And remember, Peninnah had children, and Hannah was barren. So Hannah had no child, but Peninnah had children. So remember, all the time, Peninnah used to rebuke her, used to shout at her, you have no child, you are barren, your womb has been closed by God. So all the time, Hannah get depressed. So this time, she took courage and said, no, Lord, I need to go and face. Therefore, as Christians who are walking we face this challenge in our lives every day. This one is representing the way how Christians today also are living. Some people, they have resources. They have cars. They have house. They have many children. All their children are educated. Some people, they are doing very well. Others are not doing very well. Others have studied. They have many masters, many PhDs, many degrees. While others, they cannot even get a certificate. So, penina, there are very many today among Christians. People who are doing well, they tend to down look on those who are not doing well. People who have resources, many times they don't consider people who have nothing. Instead, they keep on rebuking them. They say, you have nothing, you are poor, you grew up out of nothing. Dear brothers and sisters in the Lord, today, let us learn to have humility. Remove penina from your heart. If you are doing so, that is the spirit of penina. Remove it from your heart and put on the spirit of honor. The first lesson we learn from this is humility makes you to approach the throne of God with courage. Hannah was humid. That made her not to fear anything, to go before God and ask through Eli and say, God, if you could give me a son, I will give that son back to you. Two things that she did. Courage, she got the courage to move and face God, and also as she was facing God, she made a promise that God, when you give me this son, I will give that son back to you. And when you continue to read down, it happens. When Hannah conceived, she did exactly what she has promised God. When Samuel was 3 years old, her husband was saying, let us go for the fellowship. She said, no, let you wait and I win this child, then we shall go. Then Elkanah also understood. So when Samuel was 3 years, Hannah took Samuel and took the child back to the house of God, to Eli, the chief priest. As Christians today, what do we learn from this? Another aspect we learn from this is when we pray to God and God answered our prayers, remember to keep the promise that you have promised God. If you are praying to God, that God, if you give me money, $1 million, I will use $5 million to build your house. I will use $2 million to pay children in school. I will use this money to do this for your glory. Make sure you keep that promise. But what happens to Christians today? They go to God, they ask, God give them, then afterward, God, you are not there. They don't keep the vows. They don't keep the promise of what they requested from God. Look in your life today. As a Christian, as you are walking in your faith with God, what have you asked from God? And God has given you. And you told him, you promised that God, if you give me this, I will give it to you. Some people, they pray that, Lord, give me a good spouse. God give you a good spouse, and now you forget what you have promised, that God, if you give me a spouse, I will do this for you. God, if you send me abroad, I will give you this. God, if you give me a child, I will dedicate that child to you. God, if you lift me up in this position, in this career, if you give me this job, I will do this for you. are you doing? God has already lifted you up. God has already brought you to success. But now the question is, are you going to fulfill your vows as Anna did? Anna did not cut the hair of Samuel. Anna, when she weaned Samuel, she took the child back to Eli and said, "This is the child. You remember I came and prayed." Then Eli said, "Oh, I remember. This is the child God gave me." And when you go a little down, that child, God did a lot of wonders. Next lesson we learn from this scripture is silent prayer has a lot of power. When you pray in silence, it has a lot of power. Other than making noise, shouting for people to see you, that prayer will not work, dear brothers and sisters. Prayers in silence brings God to come and listen to you. Because you are not showing the world. Instead, you are worshiping God in spirit. Finally, humility opens doors and gives us blessing. Anna was blessed. Anna had joy after getting the child. She was happy. She was not thinking that God has forgotten her. No. She was very happy. Therefore, humility brings us joy. I like one of the films by the Kendrick brothers called The War Room. If you've ever watched that film, I encourage you, as a Christian who is living in this 21st century, I encourage you, dear brothers and sisters, get that film, The War Room, and watch it today. And you see the power of prayer. Elizabeth, even if her husband, Tony, was dodging her, pretending that he has got a job abroad, he leaves Elizabeth at home, alone with the child. He was pretending, wasting all his money on nonsense. But Elizabeth kept calm. Mrs. Clara was a prayer warrior, a very prominent figure. I like her. She did not stop praying. She even designed a room where she dedicated for prayer. That is how that film got entitled The War Room. It is through prayer and humility that turned Tony around. It was the power of God that changed the life of Tony. It is not Elizabeth. Elizabeth did not do anything. She was human. And she was humble. At the end, what happened? God touched Tony. And Tony became a good husband at the end. Therefore, dear brothers and sisters in the Lord, let us learn to come to God with love, with compassion, with clean heart. A clean heart, God will listen. A prayer which has humility. A prayer that you don't brag with Him. God will listen to it. Therefore, I continue to pray for you today that God help you to be you. That God help you to approach His throne with courage and find your destiny. When you sow good habit, you reap good character. When you sow good character, you reap your destiny. Your destiny lies on how you are walking your character today. May God bless you, watch over you always, and help you to have a unique heart that pleases Him.